This week on Tips from the Top Floor, I have a few announcements. You could become the next big podcast star, and Bernie has questions about his project to organize and find photos of hundreds of thousands of ancient Irish grave records. This episode is brought to you by Nations Photo Lab. Refresh your wall decor with Nations Photo Lab. Choose from classic photo prints, museum quality canvas prints, breathtakingly vibrant metal prints, rustic wood print wraps, and so much more. Ordering online is easy, so you can turn your Instagrams into instant memories that will last a lifetime. Make every moment matter and try Nations Photo Lab today. Head to nationsphotolab.com and use code TOPFLOOR for 15% off your order. This is Tips from the Top Floor 865 for May the 2nd, 2019.
Tips from the top floor, tips from the top, alright, from the top floor.
Hey and welcome, it's Chris. You are listening to Tips from the Top Floor, the longest running photography show on the planet. I have two I think very interesting bits of kind of housekeeping related stuff right here in the beginning. First is we're casting for a podcast co-host. I haven't seen anyone else doing this, but this is about the future of photography, one of the other photo podcasts that I do together with Adrian. And we've been doing this for over a year now, and the show is really has really managed to develop its fan base. But in the end, if you look at the show, it's two dudes in their 40s, not really that diverse, you know? And of course, that also kind of reflects a bit in how we think about things, even though I would kind of say I'm a forward-looking person. I'm always curious about things. To say with Adrian, we are also both kind of rooted in the old ways of doing things. We both are film photographers, and I think that makes for an interesting mix, but we're looking for a new voice for the future of photography, just to, add more diversity, mix it up, you know? And this is not a replacement of Adrian or myself. It's an addition. So we're looking for a 3-host team, we want a fresh perspective, and we want to increase our diversity as well. So of course, if this is for you, if you think this is something that you could be doing, of course, it helps if you're curious, if you're into photography, obviously, but you don't have to be the photo nerd, right? It helps if you have experience talking into microphones, but don't let that deter you. What we value even more is if you're fearless to try out something new. And we really only have like 3 hard requirements here. Number 1, you should be more or less fluent in English. Second, you should have a decent internet connection. It's just a technical necessity to get the recordings done in a good way, because this is a remote thing. And last but not least, you should be able to more or less commit to recording a weekly show, because we have so far managed to keep the future photography pretty much on point. I think we had 1 or 2 exceptions, and we want to keep it that way. It's important to have a regular offering here. And to be absolutely 100% clear, this is not a paid job. There's no money in this, at least not at this point. We're not making any money with the future photography at this point. So, just to make this very clear. But if that even slightly sounds interesting to you, and if you think you can add that different perspective, this different diverse perspective to those 2 middle-aged dudes that we are, then maybe give it a try. And here's what you do. Record a 1-minute audio piece in which you tell us about yourself and why you think you'd be a good fit for this. And don't worry about, if you don't have a super microphone. Audio quality at this point is secondary. It's not important. That's something we can always fix. But don't worry too much about that. Just take your smartphone, use your voice memo app. We're looking for personality and for a curious mind who isn't afraid to speculate and who's not afraid to be wrong every now and then. So record that 1-minute piece and send it to us. There's a link in the show notes for you to find some more information on that. maybe you're the next co-host of The Future of Photography. Here's another announcement. This is about the photo tours. You know a lot of work and planning goes into creating a new photo tour. Well, if you don't know, then yeah, just try to imagine what it takes to get all those loose strings and tie them together. And it's especially difficult and especially hard work for the ones that I love to do, the ones that take you to the places that not many others go to. I mean, that's really a point that I'm really proud of, that we take people to places that where you won't run into too many other tourists, those places that you can't just drive up to with a bus and take your holiday snaps and get back on the bus. We do some of that, but it's usually in places that are off the beaten track, and that makes it difficult to organize, because in other places you just ring up a hotel and book a bunch of rooms and that's it. But sometimes you have to kind of create these experiences, and we're always looking at providing these experiences, and that's photographic experiences, of course. That's one of the things that we want for ourselves, but of course, first and foremost for our clients, and that is the photography being extraordinary. And then there's the cultural experiences that are one of a kind of the life-changing moments, that you will not get anywhere else. So I'm happy that to be able to say that I've just put 2 new photo tours online for next year on my website for 2020. And these took a while because they are not run-of-the-mill. The first one you already know, the February 2020, the big ice journey on and around Lake Baikal, that has been on the website for a couple of months now, I think. And Siberia is just this amazing place. I've been there twice before. This would be my 3rd time. And I once said I won't do the same thing twice, more than twice. Like the first time going there is kind of, it's all new, it's all wonderful. And then the second time you kind of know where it is. And the third time it starts getting boring, at least for me. And I'm still true to that, because this is a very different itinerary from the 2 that we did before. We'll still be on the ice, plenty of that actually, and around the lake and on the lake. But we'll, with the black ice, the big 6-foot thick ice sheet that you can drive on and walk on and look through, because it's so amazingly clear. But we will have more of a base camp, like a hotel on Olkhon Island, right on the lake, and that'll be our home base from where we'll explore the surroundings. And this gives us different experiences, different possibilities, and really looking forward to that. That's in February. Temperatures are not Siberian cold there. I mean, we're still talking minus 10 Celsius probably, but not like minus 40. Minus 40 Fahrenheit, minus 40 Celsius, about the same. But yeah, February is getting towards the end of the winter, and it's not quite as crispy anymore. And of course, the organizer, local point people, they have warm clothing for us, so you won't even have to do a lot of shopping for that. That's in February. And if you're always wondered what it's like to be on 6-foot thick ice on top of the world's largest freshwater resource, which like Baikal is, with like 20% of the world's freshwater, then this tour might be for you. But here are the 2 new tours that we've just kind of tied up some loose ends on, and they're ready to put on the website on discoverthetopfloor.com. And the first brings us back to Ethiopia, which, I've been to twice, once with a group, and it's one of those just amazingly diverse and beautiful countries. That will be in March 2020. And we're not just traveling through Ethiopia, we will specifically visit the tribes of the Omo Valley. Now, the Omo Valley is kind of one of these big and important World Heritage Sites, and the Omo River is the largest Ethiopian river outside the Nile Basin, and its lower valley is where it's at, because this has been a region of like migration for various cultures and ethnic groups for a long time. And we're especially going there to visit the tribes in the valley, which includes I've had to look them up: the Dorze, the Tsemai, the Dasenech, the Karo, the Mursi, the Oromoya, and others. And this is not a tourist-heavy area by any stretch. I mean, I would even go as far saying it's rather the opposite. And to make this an even more exciting experience is we are so lucky to have a guide who has grown up in the Omo area. He speaks English, he speaks, what's more important, he speaks all the different languages and dialects there. I mean, Ethiopia is such a diverse country. There's so many cultures, languages, dialects that you need someone who is a local and who knows his way around and talking to them and helping us also kind of get accepted into tribes to be able to pretty much be with them and do photography there without annoying them. And this is a very unique opportunity. And so our guide is definitely a key factor in this. And we're looking at some really genuine experiences. And we will spend time with the different cultures. This is not a tourist spectacle. This is not places that are full of tourists and they will put a show up for us. No, we are going to be among these people while they go about their daily life, which is very, very exciting. This is not a tourist spectacle. This is much, much deeper. So that's in March 2020. And then last but not least, in April 2020, I'm so very happy to be able to go back to one very special place. I've been there twice. Again, it's the third time, but I can't wait to get back. And I'm talking about the land of the Thunder Dragon, the kingdom of happiness. It's Bhutan. Bhutan in the Himalayas. And again, this is the third time I'm going there. This time, it's again a very different itinerary. That's why it took a while to get this together. But we will kick this off with a big sort of bang, which we will start in Paro, where pretty much every tourist has to come in through Paro. That's the capital. And we will, of course, also start there. You will fly in either from Kathmandu or from Delhi. The whole flight situation it's pretty straightforward, actually. And we will get support from our local company that does the organization for us there. But the big bang is not Paro itself, which is already spectacular. No, it's the Paro Cheku Festival, which is the most popular religious dance festival in Bhutan. And it has been held annually since the 17th century. So this is something that it pretty much hasn't changed since, right? It's also a wonderful photo op because it's a social gathering where like people come together dressed in their finest. So you will have a lot of amazing looking people. And did I mention they are among the most friendly people on earth? So I do expect some really spectacular people photography there. But that's only the part because a part of that because Bhutan in general, like they have really kept their old ways. And Bhutan has only opened for tourism back in, I think, in 1974. And they only allow like a very limited number of tourists into the country every year. And that probably makes it one of the most exclusive tourist destinations in the world today. But then instead of doing the same as we did 2 times before, where we just kind of kept in the west of the country because that's all easily accessible or at least easy enough, instead of that, we will head east through Bhutan. We'll go further east into Bhutan than most people do. We get to see things that other tourists just don't get to see. Most tourists stay in the west part of the country, but we'll cross the entirety of Bhutan in the course of the 2 weeks that we're there. And we'll end up in Guwahati in India, which Bhutan borders on India, and we'll fly to Delhi from there. So that's kind of the official end of the tour after 2 weeks. And that's not all, because, I mean, while we have seen a lot of things there, we added a bit onto that because we thought while we're in Delhi, there are some other interesting sites to see and photograph. in India. So we're offering an optional 4-day extension onto the Bhutan 2020 tour. And again, optional, you don't have to, but if you want to get some other spectacular stuff, that extension will take us to Agra, where we will visit, of course, the Red Fort of Agra. But of course, the Taj Mahal. We'll go and see the Taj Mahal. That just the whole Taj Mahal thing is already kind of wonderful, because it's one of these places that, I mean, it took 22 years to build. It took 20,000 men to build. And the white marble was quarried like 200 miles away, and then they transported it to the site with a fleet of 1,000 elephants. I mean, it's just wild. And the Taj Mahal is everything that has been said about it and more. And this is one of those destinations that I've always wanted to go. So that is one, and of course, then we'll on the way. We also go to Mathura, which with its holy sadhus and the big temple, and then the impressive sandstone fortress of Fatehpur Sikri, which I've heard a lot of. I'm looking forward to see. So the whole Bhutan thing is exciting. Happy to go back. Happy to meet those people again. So that is in April 2020, and that's the first half of 2020 when it comes to my travels. Lake Baikal on ice, Ethiopia, and the Omo Valley tribes, and a photographic journey across Bhutan. And if you choose so, also to the Taj Mahal. And of course, all of those will be accompanied by 2 professional photo instructors. I'm teaming up with Tim again for these. We've traveled together for years. We're a great team. And maybe one of those tours is interesting to you. So just head over to discoverthetopfloor.com.
Hi, Chris. It's Bernard in Ireland with a question that's a bit off the wall, but I'd like to ask it anyway. I wonder if you use EXIF information inside imagery for any special purposes, like perhaps for cataloging or indexing images. Do you have a method that you're using that's dependent upon the EXIF files beyond just beyond the date and time or the file name? And the second question I'm interested in is, could you recommend a specific EXIF viewer or a specific EXIF program that I might use to inject information into an image? Let me give you some background. What I'm currently doing with some creative media students is they're attempting to digitally record through the use of a rostrum camera thousands of pages of grave records. So we're imaging with cameras the handwritten logs of where people are buried in County Tipperary, Ireland. And it would be pretty easy to take that imagery and to give it more information through the use of EXIF data. So I'm wondering, do you have a recommendation if I were to go and get an EXIF program, a program that could inject EXIF data to the image? What would it be? Thanks a million. I love the podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you, Bernie. And hello to Ireland. Let's try to clarify the terms first, because I think it's important to have those together. Metadata, that's pretty much the overarching term about that. That means data that's not the photo itself, right? You look at a photo, but there's all this metadata around it that pretty much describes the photo, right? And then there are 2 major categories there when it comes to photos. One is EXIF, and EXIF is pretty much what the camera adds to the photo. That will be the file name, the pixel dimensions, the date and time when the photo's been taken, what aperture it was taken with, the shutter speed it was taken with, the ISO. EXIF includes like if the flash fired or not. It has the GPS coordinates, I think, are part of the EXIF. Even the camera serial number. So it's, I would say, mainly technical information about the photo. And then there's the second set of metadata, and that is the IPTC data. And I think that's what you're looking at. IPTC, by the way, is an organization. It's the the International Press Telecommunications Council, and they defined this metadata standard that is now named after them. So the IPTC data, yeah, it's a standard, and it contains more of the like non-technical metadata, stuff that you add to the photo. And that would be stuff like, I don't know, a headline. Again, this comes from the press originally, but that would be a headline, or the category, the city the photo's been taken in, the copyright information, name of the photographer, and their address, their phone, their email, and their website. All this stuff that you want to add in there. And just hearing your project, the digitally recording 100,000 or more of pages of grave records, that sounds like a project where you will need metadata. You will need that data, otherwise you'll have a hard time finding anything in those pages ever again. So yeah, you have probably identified the issue. But yeah, what you're looking for is a way to record IPTC data and metadata in general. Now you asked about injecting that information into photos, and part of that is possible, yeah. I'm not sure it is the way to go though, because I mean there are two approaches here. There's the injection approach, which means you would modify the file and embed the information inside the image file, which is great if it's just a few files, and but if we're talking hundreds of thousands of files, that will be the slowest search process that you'll ever have seen. So it's probably not a good idea. The second thing that I would probably go for is a DAM, a digital asset management tool, software, system. Something that can keep the pictures and the metadata together and in sync, but usually kind of database based system, so it's fast. Again, hundreds of thousands of things to search through. You want something that's a bit more speedy. And in this way, you would have kind of the database on one side, the pictures on another, and this system holds that together and lets you organize things. And so that would be kind of outside of the pictures, but still keeping them together. And then you might be able to like export photos to another location. And during that export process, you could embed some of that information for the recipient to use. But yeah, this is highly theoretical. One example for a DAM, for digital asset management software, is Lightroom, which I still use. I've over 100,000 photos in my Lightroom catalog, and the metadata that I use is I have keywords for the different photos, and there's other metadata like the aperture and the focal length and stuff. And I'll sort or filter by that metadata. So just as an example, when I did the wide angle book, I needed to find wide angle photos in my catalog. And of course, I opened Lightroom and searched for all photos below a certain focal length and above a certain rating level. And that worked just fine. Another example is if let's say I want to find photos from my Ethiopia tour in 2014 that have like, say, a 4-star rating or higher, I can set a filter for that. I would just filter for the year 2014 and then for the keyword Ethiopia, which all of those photos have, and for like a rating of that at least 4 stars, and then only those pictures that have all these things in common would show up. So having good metadata that suits your project and your purpose will make it easy to find things. So I think you'd have to make 2 decisions at this point. And the first one kind of lays the groundwork. And I think it's really important to really think about what would be your taxonomy. Now, this term means pretty simply means it's a classification system. A taxonomy can be, it's always tailored to what you're doing there, and that will help you find things later. That's its purpose. Let's say an example for a taxonomy would be again, my photo tours, I could classify by geographic location in a deep hierarchy. Like on the top is Milky Way, and then Earth, and then Asia, and then Himalayas. And under that is Bhutan and other Asian countries. And then there's Paro, which is the capital of Bhutan. That would be a kind of classic geographical hierarchical classification system or taxonomy. Or I could classify by, I don't know, by photographic experiences. I could have meta information attached to my photos for like people and landscapes and ice and water and culture and wildlife. And that would be more of a taxonomy that's more of a flat hierarchy. But again, that has to be tailored to what you need with your project. So, that's an important thing to decide on, because that might dictate where you go next. And then when you have decided on the taxonomy that makes sense in your context, in the context of your project, then you're looking at a DAM system, a digital asset management system that fits your needs, or the project's needs and the taxonomy's needs, and that allows you to make use of that ordering system. Now, I wish I'd be able to just point you to buy this and you're done, but there's a lot of DAMs out there, and unfortunately, I do not have a full market overview of which is the right one for you. I personally use Lightroom mainly, and this is only for photos, mainly because it fits my needs, and it combines the DAM functionality, which in Lightroom, by the way, is the library. So that's your DAM portion of the program. But it combines that with tools that are they're specific to photo editing, the cropping, the white balance, all the things that make the photos look pretty, right? So that it fits my needs. That's what I'm saying. I'm still hoping for Serif, who do the Affinity Photo product. I'm really hoping for them to release a good alternative to Lightroom soon, because it's a little sidebar, but just the latest news about Adobe doubling the price on their photo subscription, it doesn't really spark any joy in me, not at all. So, Bernie, thanks for your question. I'm not saying use Lightroom, because it probably will not fit your needs, but I hope that at least I managed to give you a bit of a starting point to get you going in the right direction. All right, that was it for this episode of Tips from the Top Floor. Bernie, maybe the Tips from the Top Floor Slack is a good place for you to get in touch with other TFTTF listeners. The Slack is our free community discussion ground, our water cooler, and there's channels for all sorts of topics. And I'm pretty sure there are some others listening to this right now who have had that issue before and who would love to help you solve your problem. If you're not on the TFTTF Slack just yet, go to tfttf.com/yslack. That's WHYSLACK. Link is in the show notes, and you'll be on board in no time. And maybe that way you can solve your problem with the help of this amazing community. Also, don't forget the TFOP, the Future of Photography casting, is still ongoing. Here's a shortcut. Go to tfttf.com/TFOP casting and find out more. If you like this episode, you can, of course, always buy me a coffee at tfttf.com/coffee, or consider joining the ever-growing list of amazing patrons over at tfttf.com/Patreon. Again, here are the wonderful people who are the reason this episode exists, and as a token of my appreciation, here's in the order of the support tiers all the patrons who supported this episode: Jeremy Kervin, Jeffrey Block, Alex Crozo, Alin Simionoyu, yes, I practiced that one, Daniel Hertrich, Doug Gabbard, Ken Davidson, Marco Binder, Matt Armstead, Peter Morrow, Roger Needle, Tom Stewart, Aaron Pinasov, Stu Silverman, Alan Bruce Horn, Andrew B., Anthony, Bartek Boski, Chad Lee Clark, Chandra, Christopher Greenhill, Dave Smith, David Reck, Francesco Scaglioni, Holger Krupp, James Trimble, Jim Caldwell, Greg Anastasi, John Donahue, Josh Hopko, Jasmine MR, Ken Berrien, Kyle Nishioka, Marvin Aaron, Michael Grunert, Peter M. Spradling, Rob Duber, Robert Goshko, Ryan Gilio, Scott Sinafarat, Steven Sandler, Thomas Nielsen, Trevor Palmer, and Woody. And I thank you all so much. And if you want to hear your name here on the show, consider joining this illustrious group of awesome people at tfttf.com/Patreon. Thank you so much. Music for the show by Jeff Smith, sign partner Hans-Peter Kagret Publishing, and Slack challenges by Release Pixie, Matt Rasteter Armstead, Slack invitations by Chief Invitation Officer CIO Rusty Russ, and the link to get on the Slack is of course in the show notes. My name is Chris Marquardt. You'll find me on social media at Chris MarQuardt. Go out and take amazing photos, share them with the world, be nice to each other, and happy shooting.